Calling to order this evening's business meeting, October 16th, 2024. Let us do roll call, please, Ms. Checo.
Councilmember Shimolowski.
Present.
Councilmember Cerna.
Here.
Councilmember Barton.
Here.
Councilmember Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Fry.
Here.
Vice President Kingsley.
Here.
President Sokolowski.
Here.
And Mayor Aronson.
Here.
Great, thank you.
Okay. We'll go.
Let's do the pledge first. Vendors who submitted RFPs that we asked to come back in for some additional interview questions from the team. So with that, we'll start with Savvy Marketers, LLC.
Actually, President Sokolowski, they are not here yet.
Okay,
We're going to go and start with Neff Market.
so we're going to start with Neft. And,
Correct.
great, so if you don't mind introducing yourself, and then I will hand the microphone off to
You can sit.
Mr.
I'll do it.
Serna to start our
Welcome to
interview
sit.
process. Thank you.
Happy to.
And just make sure those mics are on, that the green light.
Yes. So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us today. My name is David Neff, and I'm the founder and president of Neff.
My name is John Trend, and I lead the social department at NEF.
All right, well, thank you very much for being able to make it in this evening.
Community management on all of the relevant platforms.
How many, if you're able, I think you should be able to tell us, how many hours per month was that contract?
I don't think it was an hourly contract.
Okay.
But we, you know, as I had mentioned, we represented them for, I think it was close to 5 years. It was no less than 4, close to 5 years, the partnership. We also helped them with collateral material, redesigning a lot of their collateral material and printed work.
Can you tell me more about the videography that you helped them with?
Yes, we, you know, they have park rangers, and they have some beautiful land, and lots of different farms, and all sorts of creative, like, all sorts of beautiful content to capture. So it was really an unbelievable amount of, it was really a joy to work on the account and to work on the content and bring the beautiful Chester County to life.
What was the scale of the video production? Were these videos made for just social media? Were these like longer?
They were made for social media, but the quality of them allowed them to leverage that video content in other platforms like website and YouTube and other things.
Yeah, they were optimized for YouTube, which was optimized for web. So the goal was to share those like long form stories with getting like smaller clips to be leveraged on social. But you had that holistic story to always fall back on.
And we would go out there fairly frequently, and we have all of our own equipment at Neff, so we're not renting any equipment. We have production quality equipment, so we would go out there whenever, you know, it was a sequence and a plan. Each month we would go out and capture content. But when things would arise that required the team to capture, we would be there to serve them.
What do you think are the 3 greatest strengths that you would focus on here in the borough?
Live, work, play. I think there is so much rich content here in Conshohocken. There's such a story to be told about Conshohocken. There's so much history. There's so much new as well as old retail, restaurants, bars to be highlighted. There are an immense amount of very significant small but also very large businesses that reside here. Like my bank, for example, First Trust Bank, has established itself very close to the offices where we are right now. What Amerisource Bergen has committed is like pretty much off the charts as far as the ability to attract new big business. So it's hard to pick only three things. But, you know, I'll throw a third in as far as living here. One area of specialty that we do have is with working with real estate developers for not only for sale townhomes, carriage homes, single-family homes, but also multifamily.
Conshohocken's a very like aspirational place in my mind, and it's just kind of showcasing that like the borough and the area has really just evolved over time, and it's creating like really showing the lifestyle that you can live here, really.
Going back to that Chester County.
Yes.
You said, when you initially started the project, you said you were there for 4 years. What were your metrics for success that were agreed upon between both of you? Or what was the target? The reason I'm asking is because, you know, we're a government entity, right?
Yes.
So anytime in business side, you look for a return on your ad spend, right?
Of course.
For us, we're not selling anything other than community. So really what I'm driving at is, what are really the KPIs that will measure like success in this? Did you have them for that? And what would you see those as?
Do you want to touch on this in a general way?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it would be engagement, like conversations and volume of conversations and just overall reach of like the content and the messages that we're sharing. If we're not like selling a physical product, or we're not like looking at attendance or kind of like tracking the meter of people like coming in, it's like if people are engaging with the content and you're seeing like an extensive reach within our desired demographics, and like with our tools we can see down to the zip code of who's engaging with our content. We can see top cities on a daily basis, monthly basis, and so on. So that allows us to really see the level of engagement that we're getting, as well as where within our specific target markets we're getting that engagement.
Let me drill down for a second.
Sure.
Let's say it's a year later. We decided to work with your company. We paid X thousands of dollars. If I went up to a resident and asked them, how has your life improved based off of the money that we spent? Because that's really, we have a small group of residents that we report to, right? That's how it works. What would you hope they would say?
I would hope that, do you want to answer first?
Sure.
Okay, and I'll follow.
Yeah. Essentially, it's just like let's assume they're like a business owner or someone involved in the community. It's like, do they see an uptick in just traffic, like people going through their doors, more people coming to like eat at the restaurants here, just seeing like the more active community involvement from people who either live in the Conshohocken borough or are striving to like be a part of the community here.
Okay, so a little bit about growing the actual community of business.
Yeah.
All right.
But also you want people to have a deepened sense of pride about being here. And I think that's how we can help. Having people, oftentimes people take wherever they live, work, or play, they take it for granted. And we want to make sure that we're communicating with the community what a wonderful place it is. But another thing that I think is very important from a client and agency perspective and you've just opened the can of worms, which is awesome, is making sure we're aligned on expectations. So it's our responsibility to collaborate with you to help you determine and for us to agree on what the reasonable expectations can be and what can be done based on the engagement. Because I know the way the RFP was written, it was I think if it was anything, it seemed like social media was the priority, but a lot of times, and this is one thing that we bring to the table that maybe others don't, is we are a full-service marketing communications company. So if it's publicity and feature stories on TV, in the news, online, print, we can help with that. Social media is another tool for marketing, as well as advertising.
Are you
And
guys,
we do all of them.
are you aware of how most people in the borough currently kind of get information, how they gather it? Are you familiar with any of that, or no?
No.
Okay.
So I'm going to piggyback off of that. So going back to that engagement and that community, we've got a very wide swatch of ages that live within the community. We have our residents who are in their late 70s and older, and we have the younger people who are really in tune with social media, and we have people in, kind of that in-between area. How are you going to get your message out to such a wide and diverse
Yes.
background or age grouping of residents that we have here? Because those other residents who might be in the older range don't have access to social media or choose not to engage in it.
Well, that would just come from hopefully people see what we're doing on social media and share that with them. Like if they're not on social media, then if we're only working within the social landscape, then unless someone physically shows them something, then they won't see the content that lives on social media, like if they're just not on the apps. But in 2024, almost 2025, even like your great grandma is on Facebook. So we use our softwares to really define like where people are. Like I said earlier, like we can track like audiences down to age, whether it be like 0 to 5 or 75 to 100. And we cater specific messaging to specific platforms and to specific outlets that really hit all of those touch points. So if we're speaking to someone who's 22 and just graduated college, we're using language that resonates with them. And then if we're speaking to someone who's 75 and checking Facebook for like their grandkids updates, we can make sure that we're using messaging that also speaks to them.
Would you, go ahead.
Is it okay?
Yes, please.
If there are a lot of older folks in the borough that are not on any social media platforms, we would then need to find other ways to communicate to those folks.
What do you normally do in those situations?
Well, again, everything is usually a function of budget, because we can make up all the things in the world that we want to do, but if it's not in budget, it's not really part of a relevant conversation. So off the top of my head, I would say, generating publicity with the news outlets, whether they be TV news outlets, which most of these older folks are consuming, radio outlets that they're consuming, newspapers, magazines. There are a lot of stories and news outlets that we can craft a story and solicit the media's attention and try to compel them that this is a great story that their viewers or readers would be very interested in.
Okay.
But again, it's a function of budget.
Sure.
You can buy billboards all along the Schuylkill Expressway and, in all the places that we see outdoor advertising, but, when you're talking about those kinds of things, sometimes it can get very expensive, which is why typically we like to make recommendations based on a total budget, so we're all like kind of aligned.
Absolutely. Great,
think
thank you.
We have to wrap up soon. So what
Oh.
I did want to ask for clarification, because we've talked about how you're trying to get all these things out. What is it that you mean by community management? What is it that you do when it comes to that?
Sure. Yeah, that's essentially like brand reputation and like respond. So it's like we are the first responders as far as like the digital landscape goes. So if someone's trying to communicate with the Conshohocken Borough, like we are on the front lines being that communicator with them, like answering any questions that they have, providing recommendations, and kind of being that voice of the Conshohocken Borough. And how we set ourselves up for success with that is once we're signed on, we provide like a very robust FAQ that we provide with whoever would answer those questions, just so we can continue to stay on the front lines, and it limits kind of like the back and forth email comms or phone conversations that we need to have to answer those specific questions. It just kind of sets us up for success so that we can be prompt in response and respond to people in a very timely manner.
So just to clarify for the group, that might be a little less aware of the social media platforms and community management. All of these platforms, it allows folks to make snarky comments, folks that might have way too much free time. So it is our responsibility.
We're familiar.
Yes, I'm sure. So it's our responsibility. When John mentioned the frequently asked questions, that's part of our ramp up for any new social media client. So 99% of all of the questions that anyone would have on a social media platform, we, as your partner, would respond to those folks when they ask questions. Every now and then, for those people that have way too much free time, if a sticky question or concern or something negative is posted, we would never respond to that on your behalf. But what we would do is we would show the world that we responded in a very timely fashion. We would ask that person if they could direct message us with their email or phone number, and we would have someone from the borough be in touch with them because their opinion matters.
Yeah.
Just to clarify.
In social media with talking with people, that's like the first place they go now, especially like anyone up to probably like 45 years old. Like they're not going to call the business, they're going to send them a direct message to try to like either say it's like, do you have a like what can you tell me about this event that's coming up? Like they would almost 8 out of 10 times like message the social media platforms that they saw like the inquiry about, and then that is where we would go and respond.
This is our first time in this type of endeavor. Can you walk us through or summarize for us what you would do special for us to not only work through this project with you, but for us to learn and exist in this world that we haven't existed in before?
I think what's important here is educating you, because the more we educate you about what we're doing, the more you'll appreciate what we're doing. So we're happy to, hand-holding is probably the wrong, but we're happy to hold your hands and walk you through a thorough education of what we're doing and why we're doing it. And if it's going to take more time, that's all the better for in the long term. So this is a relationship that's very, very important to me as the owner of the agency, to everyone at my agency. I grew up nearby. I've known and been part of the borough for my entire life. I moved into the city many years ago, and my doctor still moved his practice to Conshohocken, and I live at 18th and Chestnut. My office is in Old City, and I still drive to Conshohocken to see my doctor. So, so money doesn't matter here. This is a long-term commitment, and we want to make it work, and we want to grow together.
Yeah. And when we share strategy presentations and kind of like take you through our thinking, we don't treat it like a soapbox where it's just like us kind of just talking at you. It's very conversational, and because I always like to say like our strategies aren't written in stone. It's not something that's written down. It's things that evolve over time as we like learn what people are resonating with within the borough, and just like what messaging is working and what's not working, and it kind of just creates this ever-flowing strategy that we're able to evolve over time and take you through that as well, so that you guys are a part of that process with stuff that you learn, because no one is closer to the borough than you are. So we would also lean on you for education and things like that. So it's a very like flowing partnership that we evolve.
And we can help you prioritize decisions as we go down the road together.
Yep.
In your RFP, you talked a little bit about reinforcing Conshohocken's reputation in Montgomery County. Why do you think that's important for us in a marketing strategy?
Well, I think, the Borough of Conshohocken is a brand. And I think there are a lot of perceptions about what Conshohocken is. I think if you ask 10 people, you're going to get 10 different opinions, because the borough has evolved so much so over the last 20, 30 years in a very positive way. So I think it's all about creating that brand and creating Conshohocken as a desirable place to live when people are at social functions or in their schools or churches or synagogues or wherever they might be, having them have a higher level of pride about living here or working here.
How do you make sure that comes to fruition in what you do?
That essentially is, so we want people to really, when they see like our creative and our marketing and our messaging, we want the experience from them viewing that on a screen to when they arrive in the borough to feel the exact same. So it's really diving into the community here at Conshohocken so that when someone does engage with an ad or see a post on Instagram, that when they go and experience whatever it is that we're talking about or promoting, that it's not, they don't feel like betrayed or that they were like misinformed. It's immediate, like they see this event and they see what Conshohocken is, then they show up here and it is exactly what was advertised. So it's just reinforcing what is really beautiful about everything with Conshohocken. And like I said earlier, it's just like showcasing that aspirational lifestyle that we want to promote for people who want to experience living and working and just engaging with Conshohocken as a whole.
We do this a lot for retail clients, for candy companies like Asher's Chocolate that you are probably aware of. We do it for a lot of our real estate developer clients who build these multifamily projects that might have 200 to over 400 apartments that they need to rent ASAP. So what we do is that multifamily project we now turn into and create a very highly desirable neighborhood so people want to live there. And trust me, when some of these neighborhoods that we've made like neighborhoods that really aren't, you'd be pretty impressed if you saw the content that we created to make it appear as if it is a neighborhood.
Because we're selling a lifestyle, not a building.
Right, on that note, something that Stacy said earlier about the diversity age-wise, but also of opinion. Some people love development, and some people, you know, they have nostalgia for things that never really existed or weren't what they're remembering. And
That's a slippery slope.
yes, yes.
Yes, and we have to be very careful the way we
Right.
craft those messages, or maybe we stay away from some of them. If there's going to be potential harm, maybe we hold that back. So that's very important. We don't want to light a fire.
Yeah, and that's where we come in as your strategic partners. Essentially, it's like we identify if the juice is worth the squeeze or not.
We'll need your expertise on like the new developments that you were talking about, making particular little enclaves look very desirable and convincing people that it's a good thing.
And we also establish a lot of relationships, like David was saying, with the neighborhoods within these like multifamily apartments. It's like we go into the business and ask, it's like, hey, like, can we like photograph content here? Like, can we interview you? Can we chat about your business? And more often than not, that leads to a partnership between like that local like restaurant or like stationery shop with the building, or if they're a fitness center, like we established one partnership with one of our buildings with the spin studio, and now residents get a 25% discount. And that's just like an ongoing thing that is for all residents.
I'm looking at your proposal on how you advertise the Carson and many neighbor things to make it something that it's a good thing for the neighborhood.
No doubt. That was actually one that I was thinking of.
I'm looking.
On Spring Garden between 5th and 6th,
Right.
not really what you might think of as a neighborhood, but we created it. We created a nice neighborhood look and feel. And guess what? That project is 80% leased right now.
And it's the one that I just talked about with their relationship with the spin studio.
Thank you.
Yeah.
David, so since you had come to us with government experience, what does the relationship between you and our professional staff look like on a daily basis?
John would assign, but he might take like the account as like the day-to-day contact. I would be involved all along the way. John would be the point person with one of our content creators, but we don't like to play whisper down the lane, so when we have meetings, we like all of the members who are working on the account to be there with you and to hear directly from you and your team on their wants, their needs, their dislikes, so everyone can hear the same thing in the same meeting. But we would also ask you questions about how would the relationship work best for the borough, because that's more important than the way we can tell you the way we typically do it, but we want it to be done in a fashion that makes you comfortable. So, Matt France, who is our project coordinator, and he was very involved with, putting the RFP together. If there are a lot of different creative moving pieces, he would be the point person for anything non-social. And you could say as the client, hey, we'd like Matt to be, involved along the way as well. So we want to structure it that is best for you as the client.
I want to be thoughtful to some of our other vendors. If we have any other questions, could we get them over to Stephanie and she can get them out to the vendor? Does that sound good? Okay.
And
Thank you very much.
we were told it would be okay to give you a little leave behind, so I have 8 packages here.
Sure.
Who should I give them to?
Brittany.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Oh,
so
thank
much.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much for having
thank
us,
you so
and thank
much.
you for the consideration. This is something that is really important to us, so we'll keep our fingers crossed. Thanks. Have a great evening. Appreciate it.
All right, who you bringing in next, Britt? Who'd she say? Savvy marketers. Savvy. Okay.
I'm gonna go back. Oh, yeah.
We like you, Adrian.
This is your puppy. This is your baby.
Yeah.
Somebody Is somebody jet lagged? Made him laugh.
Hi.
Bee marketing.
Bee marketing. Okay.
Okay.
Hello.
Good evening, how are you? You too. How's everything? Good?
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Very good. We're going to kind of do this shooting questions at you.
Sure.
I'm going to hand over the microphone to Councilmember Serna to get us kicked off, and we'll just kind of all chime in if you don't
I
mind.
was so preparing, I was gonna say, hello, we're from B Marketing, and we're seeking $38,000 for your marketing services. Sorry, go ahead. I
Go
was
for it.
practicing that all day, so go ahead, I'm sorry.
So you're from here in Conshohocken.
So our business launched in Conshohocken.
Mhm.
I was from Conshohocken, and we currently are in Plymouth Meeting.
You are currently located here?
In Plymouth Meeting, yes.
Oh, in Plymouth Meeting.
Yes.
So what was it that drove you to establish the business here?
For sure. I mean, had my first beer at Casper's, got married at St. Matthew's Church. My family's from Conshohocken on East 9th Avenue. Lived there for a couple years with my grandma. Launched my business out of my basement, which was just outside the Conshohocken Borough on Palmer Road. And got a lot of business established through the businesses of Conshohocken. I've worked with a lot of businesses, and that's how we kind of established it.
So being from the area, you
Yes.
probably know that while we have what our current online situation is,
Yes.
also our social media situation, but also kind of what happens on Facebook, the discussions and all those sorts of things that occur with regard to posts for the borough. So I guess from your own perspective, how might you approach this with your experience
Sure.
and knowing that there's this kind of discussion online that how would you position the borough in a positive light?
For sure. We absolutely have to participate in the conversation. We have to be a part of the conversation. So we have a lot of social media monitoring tools out there. We are very transparent in the stuff that we do at B Marketing. We use Sprout Social as a monitoring tool, as well as Bird Eye that we're partners with. So we would monitor the stuff that's out there. We do have relationships not only with the businesses in the area that we work with and know, family businesses like Flacco's and Edward Freeman Nuts, we do their marketing. We manage their social media, Shank Printing as well. But we have worked with Kevin Tierney in the past and know more than the curve. So, I mean, I feel like us coming in and knowing that we'll at least get ahead of it as far as news and from a borough standpoint, be able to not only participate in the conversation, but hopefully lead that conversation that may not have been the case in the past.
Do you feel like your audience would be different than you're talking about building an audience, really,
Sure.
right? So do you feel like, since you're very familiar with it, do you feel that your audience would be fundamentally different or similar to what exists today in those other mediums that, like More Than the Curve, for example? Do you
For
feel
sure.
like those are two distinct audiences, or would they, in your opinion, be very similar?
No, I think it would definitely be different. I think from a borough standpoint, we're going to lead that conversation in an extremely positive light, things that are going on in the community, as well as like the RP said, discover Conshohocken. I think from a More Than the Curve standpoint, it's what's the news today and how can I put that news out there regardless of what that information is.
Sure.
So I feel like our approach is going to be more positive, things that are going on in Conshohocken. How do we show Discover Conshohocken out there, and what are the events that people can participate in, whether they live here, commute here, or a business here.
Do you feel like that, but the people who consume that, do you think they'd be different than the people that would
I
consume?
do not think that they would be that different. I think that it would be different segments. I think that we would recommend from a borough standpoint that we would communicate to those segments differently, whether it's family or commuter, different times of that day. I think that approach is that they're hitting everyone as a mass media per se versus speaking to different groups. For instance, the upcoming Halloween event that you have coming is definitely going to be geared towards families, more so than the renters or the businesses per se. So how do we reach those families, and what does that target audience look like for that post that we put out there?
And just one question. Year later, we work with you, right? We put in X thousands of dollars. If I went up to a resident, me personally, and just said, hey, how has your life improved
Yep.
since we invested in B Marketing?
Sure.
What would you hope they would say to me?
That I know what's going on in Conshohocken.
Okay.
I think that that's going to be the most important thing. You have numerous events throughout the year, whether it's the Fun Fest or the Soapbox Derby. How are those events being broadcast to them? I would say today, from a social media standpoint, for instance, just that Halloween event, it's posted on Facebook, it's not posted on Instagram.
Okay.
So we need to make sure that we're putting consistent content out there across all the social media channels. I think that we at B Marketing would bring that consistency with the social media posts that would be out there.
Okay. Thanks.
So kind of going off that social media line of thinking, we have a very diverse age range in Conshohocken. As you
Sure.
know, we have our elderly population of 70, 75, or even 80 and older. You also have a very younger demographic as well. How do you get your messaging out to assure that everyone is getting the messaging that they need? Or if it's something borough-wide, how are you going to get everything out to the mass of the town?
For sure. From a social media specific standpoint, each different social media channel has statistics. We have a pulse on those statistics. We work with over 100 businesses across different industry verticals to make sure that we understand what those statistics are. So Facebook being 35 plus, Instagram being 25 plus, understanding what the message is for the event that we're going to put out there is what we're going to focus on those different channels. As you'll see in our RFP response, social media is just one aspect that we were approaching. We looked at digital advertising in this proposal as well, and also PR support for the borough. With the social media, with the digital advertising support, we would do geofencing, which is display banner ads that would show up on the different channels that you are scrolling on the internet. So if you're going to check your email on Yahoo, those banners that come up, or you're looking at a score on ESPN, the banners would come up at the top. We would be hyper-focused on the Conshohocken area. We can get extremely granular with what that looks like from a targeting standpoint. We can target just a Great American Pub building if we wanted to, but obviously we would target the Conshohocken Borough and the specific demographics that we would not be hitting on social media with that geofencing, and we can get that for a cost per thousand in the $3 to $4 range, which is extremely competitive.
You're from the area. You have this bias because you're from Conshohocken. You know, we all have experienced it. We know about that. How do you assure that your bias is not kind of put into what we're looking for and you're taking a more objective approach to what we need as a borough?
Yeah, I mean, I wholeheartedly would say I do not have a bias. I mean, I understand that business continues to grow and business thrives, and I feel like that have participated in the growth of that as well, being a marketing agency and helping businesses. We've worked with businesses like Lenny's Deli that have closed, but we work with the Great American Pub that we've seen grow, and they've expanded additional locations. So I don't feel that we would bring a bias at all. Obviously, at the end of the day, it's business and not personal, and we need to treat it like a business.
So we're looking at this role as more of a consultant type of role. How do you plan to fully immerse yourself into the mission, the vision, and the current team atmosphere that we have here in the borough
For sure.
administration?
Absolutely. So a couple ways I'll answer that. One is we, within our RFP, you'll see that we included a Be Strategic as part of that, which is a monthly fee of $600 that would be a part of the RFP that we would put out there. That $600 really goes to us helping with strategy, but also coming on site on a monthly basis to have a regular meeting with the borough team and understand what's going on from an event standpoint, as well as we have members that live in the community that attend different events on a regular basis to kind of help immerse ourselves in there. So that's the Be Strategic part of it. I wanted to answer that another way. I forget. I'm sorry.
So this is our first time in this type of endeavor.
Oh, that's
What do you expect to do special for us to help us get through this and get better at it?
For sure. And I think just answering the second part of the question that I had there and into your question, we have experience doing it. We work with Valley Forge Tourism and Megan Tommasini there. We work with Lower Bucks County Chamber, where they're very heavy industrial and residents, and they're trying to grow their business sector in similar ways that we have to get immersed in their areas. What I think that we would bring to the table, that whether it's we walk away in 12 months or in 5 years, is one is setting up a pathway for you. For instance, with social media, we build social media calendars. We build those social media calendars that have consistent content out there from, we call it a 60-40% focus. So 60% of the content is going to be around the community and the businesses, some human interest pieces. 40% is going to be specifically driven from the borough. So we're going to set up this scalable processes for you so that when you do leave, you'll have the content calendars, you'll have what our playbook looks like from a PR standpoint, and you'll see the results from the digital marketing so that in the future you can make those results if you want to continue doing geofencing within the borough on your own or continuing to outsource that.
Talk about results.
Yes.
We're not a business,
Yes.
so we can't really show like ROI because we'll have no revenue that comes from this.
For sure.
So what kind of metrics or KPIs would you be evaluating to show that this is effective?
Yes, absolutely. At our agency, we have a big sign on the wall. It says it's not about the output, it's about the outcome. So we are very driven by outcome. We have a live dashboard that you would have access to. Within that live dashboard, you'll see the different results that we would be driving from each of the channels that we're doing. From a specific KPI standpoint, Adrian, to answer your question, within social media, it would obviously be engagement, right? How many people are we engaging with the posts that we have out there? All these social media algorithms do deter you from driving engagement and deliver your message to a portion of the community. So that's where the paid social media would help with our engagement to show eyeballs. So impressions would be one of our KPIs. Engagement would be another KPI as well, and that would go across digital ads and across the social media. And then from a PR standpoint is how much earned media are we going to receive? Do we have a Jennifer Fredericks coming out here and doing a event for the Phillies Fever thing that was here? Or how does the earned media look from people coming out or media being earned? Obviously, we have within what I was mentioning our display ads at $3 to $4 KPIs for cost per thousand. That's our benchmarks back to you. So we'll set up those benchmarks. You'll know what those benchmarks are when we start, and that's kind of our report card back to you. So if we're looking at a $3 to $4 KPI and we're spending $1,000 a month, obviously we should be driving that 30,000 impressions. If I did my math right. 300,000.
Since you started out saying that you wanted $38,000,
Yes.
um,
Sorry.
that's fine. It's right here in writing, as a matter of fact. How many hours a month you anticipate you'll be putting into specifically for the borough?
It's a great question. So from the social media and the strategic marketing standpoint, it's about $1,500. I think it's $1,450. As an agency, we try to, as a business, get $100 an hour. So that was about 14 hours a month that we would be putting in with those two. From the digital advertising standpoint, we take a 20% management fee, so that's $200 off of the $1,000. So that'd be another 2 hours. And the last one for the B scene, I think it's $750. So it's about 7 additional hours. So we would be looking at about 20 hours a month, 20 to 25 hours a month, roughly.
Okay. And you said that there would be a quarterly production, perhaps, as an extra. What kind of things have you done for other companies or municipalities even?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that we strongly recommend doing video. In today's era, they say the average attention span is 8 seconds. So I lost all of you like 20 minutes ago. But the average attention span is 8 seconds. And obviously multimedia, as we all know, is consumed. People consume video 90% more than they consume text. So we want to put out regular videos for you. I think when you go to the borough, I know when you go to the borough website, there's a video that you want to watch about the borough. It's 5 years old. And I think that you have grown a lot over the last 5 years, I think we'd say. So we want to create more video that's current for you. They say the average renter changes over every 2 years. So we're probably on the third set of renters there that are seeing that video. We want to create regular videos for you on a quarterly basis that would just show the borough in a good light, whether it's at the Fun Fest or something around Christmas time with all the lights out on the street and things like that. We have done this for other people. We worked with the Conshohocken Firehouse with their grant that they got, the SAFER grant, to help them with the recruitment video. We did the same thing with Spring Mill Firehouse. And we do regular videos for different businesses.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay, if you think of anything, we can get those over to Steph and she can send them out to you guys if you
Awesome.
have any questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you
Thanks
very
so much for coming in.
I appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Good seeing you.
So Leah Hammond Consulting will be the next interview.
Just,
Thank you.
savvy marketers did not show up, so
Okay.
we're gonna remove them from the list.
All right.
And they did confirm, so.
They did confirm. Hello, everyone. Hello, how are
Hello.
you?
Hi.
This is going to be an open forum type of question session. Councilmember Stern will get us started, and then we'll all kind of chime in and ask questions about your services.
Sounds good.
Great. I'd like to first start off with a very general question. Like, what got you interested in replying to this RFP and working for the borough, potentially working for the borough?
Well, I saw the RFP online, and I thought, oh my gosh, wow, this is like fantastic. I really, I would love to do some social media for a borough. Townships, boroughs, they all have such great history and lots of great things that you can share. Plus, it's a great way for you to, kind of keep up with the community and, put the information out that really helps the residents of the community.
Do you currently have any, knowledge or experience of like what Conshohocken's current social media, status, or like what the vibe is for Conshohocken online?
It seems like you post some things about Conshohocken as well as community events, things that are happening in terms of maybe some traffic updates and things of that nature. I did do just, a little bit of general research.
I would say one of our challenges right now is that when information goes out, the public, especially, we have like a very diverse community of people who may have lived here for over 50 years, and then people who are very new to the community as well. So at times they may want different things for community, say for one, development. So whenever a new apartment complex or something is built, sometimes the older residents aren't too keen on that happening. What kind of ways do you think you might promote or encourage the community to be open to these sorts of things, like new development or these issues where, you know, one demographic of the borough might not be so keen on liking it where the rest of the borough does?
Definitely, I think finding ways to find a middle ground for both demographics, particularly for the people who have been here for a long time, maybe sharing the benefits of why, you know, this new you know, building or this new thing is happening within the community. You know, finding ways to maybe talk about the history, but then, you know, blending that history, you know, with the new, and just really trying to find like a common ground, you know, between both groups.
Let's say year passes, we've worked with your company, we paid you X amount of dollars. I go up to a resident and said, how was your life improved since we've done that? What would you hope they would say?
Could you repeat your question again, because I didn't quite hear it?
That's okay. Let's say it's a year later, we've worked with your company, we paid you X amount of dollars. If I were to go up to a resident and say, how did your life improve because we did that, what would you hope they would say?
I would hope that they would say that they really enjoyed the content that they saw on Conshohocken social media, that they learned something about the borough. You know, maybe they were very interested, they knew about the events that were coming up, they knew about the history, they found ways to have community together with each other, you know, from, you know, looking at the content that was shared. I think it's a great way for people to really connect with each other and, you know, have some memorable moments.
And what would be a solid KPI in your opinion to measure this? Obviously, we're not a business, so we're not getting any money back for what we're investing. What would be your metric for that?
I think for me, a metric would be engagement. You know, are people enjoying the content that we're sharing on social media? So seeing their engagement, whether or not, you know, people are commenting, if they're liking, you know, if, you know, the accounts are growing because of the content that we're sharing. You know, when we see that kind of thing, it really excites us, and then we try to find, you know, similar things that, you know, people really like to keep them engaged and keep them coming back for more.
Cool.
This is our first time ever doing this. So one question is kind of general. Like you, in your response, you allocated 20 hours per month for the proposed scope of work. We've gotten all kinds of hours in terms of the spectrum on, like across the spectrum on this, up to, I think, some surpassed 100 hours per month. Can you tell me why you feel 20 hours per month is sufficient for the borough to launch and maintain like a successful marketing strategy?
My team and I are very efficient. We've been working doing social media for 14 years, and, you know, I'm a small business owner. You know, it takes a lot of research, you know, in terms of what we're doing, but once we kind of have and understand, you know, the account, you know, things kind of move quickly. We work quickly. You know, we plan our content out a month in advance, and so everything it moves very quickly once you start, you know, creating the content, scheduling it, and then implementing it, and then, you know, doing the community management, you know, for the accounts. You know, I can't speak to why other people feel like they need to have 100 hours. I personally feel like 100 hours is a lot, but we work quickly. And that's kind of the way we've been working for 14 years. It depends on the account, you know, what you guys need. You know, if we find that if the client is asking us to do more than the, you know, stated, you know, hours, you know, we'll definitely let you know. But a lot of times too, when we really love the account, sometimes we don't even we don't even bill for it. We just keep it going, and keep moving. We stick with what we said we were going to do.
Can you explain a little more what you do for, you said community management?
Yes, so once we do all of the research and then create our social media schedules, we then schedule that content on social media and it will publish, and then we are managing the account from there. So we go into the accounts and do community management in terms of monitoring what people are saying, answering any questions people might have, like if they send a direct message, if they leave a comment on a post. We'll also go through and look at some of the other accounts that the borough might be following, and if it is similar or related content, we may share the content in the stories, just to kind of keep people engaged with what we have going on.
We're used to the more than occasional snarky comment on our posts. What kind of process or what methodology do you have for responding to things that are to responding, I guess, in general to comments and things made on posts?
So we're always very careful about how we respond to comments on posts, particularly if the person is feeling a little salty. We really will not engage with that person, because a lot of times when you engage with that person, they really are trying to pick a fight with you. And, we also understand that we're representing the borough. So whatever we say, we're saying as the borough. So if there is any kind of comment that is negative or nasty, we will absolutely bring it up to whoever, is the person we report to, and ask, how do you want to respond to this? And we leave it up to you to tell us how to respond to it, and then we will then communicate, that information back.
So we're looking at this role as a consultant role. How do you, as a consultant, fully immerse yourself into our mission, our vision, our team atmosphere? What's your process in actually becoming Conshohocken?
So our team, we do a lot of research, trying to understand, our clients, so that we can, communicate with your tone, your voice. We love the research aspect of it, the writing piece of it, learning more about the borough. There's, being that this is a borough of Conshohocken, there's probably going to be a ton of great content, for us to find. And it's all of those little things that, kind of make the difference for us in terms of how we can, better communicate and really become part of the team. Because we are an outsourced team, we don't really feel like we're an outsourced team. We actually say we and our. We really feel like we're part of the team. And the vision that, we see is the vision that you guys, we're working with you together as a team to communicate those messages.
Do you have any experience working with other municipalities?
Yes, not necessarily doing their social media, but I have done some training and some other types of social media work for other municipalities.
We have a very diverse community here in Conshohocken, and one of the diverse points is age. And we've got a lot of residents who are 70 plus. We've got a lot of residents who are in that 20s, 30s, and we have a lot that are in that mid-range as well. And you're primarily a social media firm. How do you get your messaging out to those people who may not? Do you have another way to get messaging out that's not social media, or are you guys pretty much just focused on the social media aspect?
We are pretty much focused on the social media aspect, and one of the things with social media is also understanding the demographics of who is on each of those platforms. So, people are really surprised when they find that, a lot of senior people are actually on social media, particularly Facebook. I will never forget when my mom, sent me a Facebook friend request because she was like, well, you don't send me any pictures of the girls, and I want to see what you've got going on. And so, she connected with me on Facebook, and it was because she wanted to see what was going on. And so, I find that there are a lot of, older generation, on Facebook. And so there is an opportunity there for them to still see those messages. Not everybody is going to see, the messages. So, if you're really trying to do some outreach, maybe they're, maybe putting out an email, but then again, they may not necessarily be checking email. But, they might be old school in terms of like flyers, or maybe even just picking up the phone, or maybe having a neighbor knock on the door. So,
Great, thank you.
So this is new for us. What can you tell us, or what do you expect to do for us as an organization special that can help us get better and learn through this environment?
So that's a little bit hard for me to answer without actually having worked on the account yet and really immersed myself into it. But I know that we could find some things that are really special and unique for Conshohocken, because like I said, you guys have such, rich history. There's great restaurants here. There are, some really amazing spaces and trails and parks and things of that nature. So there's a lot that we could do. I just have to immerse myself in it. My team and I have to, get involved in it before we can figure out, well, what's that one special thing that we could do for you?
Who would be our contact person? What's the structure of your team look like for us?
So I would be the contact person, and my team, would kind of get the information from me.
Okay.
And you're located in Wingcote?
I'm sorry, I didn't
You're
hear you.
located in Wingcote?
Yes, I am.
And have you done any work in that general area?
Not yet, but I actually plan to. It's on my list.
Do you want to?
Hopefully sometime soon. We actually just moved to Wyncote a couple of years ago, so I'm still trying to get myself used to being, in the neighborhood. And, I'm now seeing like all of the things that are available in terms of, getting involved in the community, but also, where can I help, where can I serve, what could I do, for the community. So it's on my list.
Anybody
Else? Okay. Thank you for joining us this evening and answering our questions. If we have any other questions, we'll get them to the borough manager, who can get them out to you to help answer as we kind of move through this process and figure out
Okay.
our next steps. So
Yep.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Right. So that concludes our interviews for this evening. All right. Thank you very much for arranging those. All right, moving into our agenda to the next item, we have our consent agenda. On the consent agenda this evening, the first item is to approve and adopt the September 4th and the September 18 regular meeting minutes and the September 25th special meeting minutes. With that, I would need a motion to approve and adopt September 4th, September 18th, and September 25th meetings.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to approve the September ending treasurer's report and accounts payable. The report and accounts payable are in the amount of $2,978,497.23. Any questions related to the treasurer's reports or accounts payable this evening?
No.
Hearing no questions, could I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda this evening is under unfinished business. First item is to consider awarding a bid for their engineering services for the 2023 CDBG curb ramp project. Are there any questions about the curb ramp project? Hearing no questions, I'm looking for a motion to award the engineering services for the CBGG curb ramp project to Gilmore and Associates at a not to exceed the cost of $30,585.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item under unfinished business is to consider approving the first addendum to the Conshohocken Borough Community Shuttle Service Contract. Last week, I think we got our information for that contract. Were there any questions related to the contract amendment?
No, just to clarify for the public record, the cost of that contract is $260,000, which is in your capital budget.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
So what I'm looking for is a motion to approve the first addendum to the Conshohocken Community Shuttle contract at $260,000 in the budget for 2025.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item under unfinished business is to consider approving the third amendment to the lease agreement with the Washington Fire Company. Any questions on the lease agreement? Okay, hearing no questions, I'm looking for a motion to approve the third amendment.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item under unfinished business is to consider approving Resolution 2024-22, setting the procedural rules compliance with Pennsylvania's right to know law. Any questions related to what was presented on the right to know changes on the resolution? Hearing no questions, I'm looking for an motion to approve Resolution 2024-22, setting the procedural rules for compliance with the Pennsylvania's right to know law.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
President Sokolowski, item E has been removed from the agenda. We received notification at close of business day today that the Seven Tower Bridge team was withdrawing the request for the borough to subordinate at this time, so it is removed from the agenda, so you can skip to item.
Thank you very much. So then the next item on the agenda is to consider approving Resolution 2024-23, authorizing the submission of the 2024 CBDG application. Any questions on the application? Hearing no questions, I'm looking for a motion to approve the Resolution 2024-23, authorizing the submission of the 2024 CBDG application.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item under unfinished business is considering approving the 3-year community development plan for the borough's CBDG program. Any questions on the development plan? Hearing no questions, I need a motion to approve the 3-year community development plan for the borough's CBDG program.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. We're going to move on to new business this evening. At this point, I will ask Stephanie to go over each of the items that we're requesting for consideration of a vote. So the first item is Resolution 2024, authorizing the submission of a local share account grant application for the Fayette Street Diet Road project.
Yes, thank you, President Sokolowski. So the Fayette Street Road Diet Project most recently was part of the conversation in your September budget meeting as a potential future capital budget item. This specific project has been in front of Borough Council and the public numerous times, dating back to 2016. So this evening, the next step in the process, since it's been presented and the traffic engineer was given instructions to complete the feasibility study, which was completed, and then attempt to find funding commitments. We are actively seeking potentially 2 grants for funding sources that would be able to actually carry out this road diet project. If the grants were awarded at that point, we would bring our Brian Keaveney, who is our traffic engineer, who designed the road diet project, did the feasibility study back in to do an updated presentation on the project along with any potential grant dollars that we had, that we were the recipient of. So we are this evening requesting the council authorize 2 resolutions which permit borough administration to submit for a local share account grant and also a multimodal transportation fund grant. The local share account grant is in the amount of $1 million, which would mean that the borough would need to fund approximately $721,000 in order to complete the $1,721,000 project. And then the MTF grant application would be for $1,324,000, and the borough match in that grant would be $397,000. So both grants would fund a significant portion of the full project cost, which is roughly $1.7 million. But there is a match requirement for each of those grants with the numbers that I just shared.
So Steph, I'm going to do just kind of a little bit of a history for some of our new council members and for anyone who kind of doesn't understand or know what the road project is, if you don't mind. So as you said, tonight we're not actually voting on the project itself. Tonight we are looking to apply for grants that would fund this type of project, and then that would be deferring costs to the residents, right? So in reviewing kind of the history, the goal of this project is traffic calming and pedestrian safety. We have Pannoni as our engineer, who has 55 years of experience in the field. They have over 14,000 employees in their business, and they have 40 offices across the nation. So they are a tried and true engineering company who has done this assessment for us. In June of 2016, the road diet concept was presented to Borough Council by Brian Keaveney at Pannoni. It was presented at a public works session meeting. On June 9th, the road diet evaluation the concept was presented to the public. So it started back in 2016, this concept of public safety and traffic calming. Fast forward through COVID, in April of 2021, after COVID, so post-COVID and post the building of the lower end, the hotel and the office space, the road diet concept was reintroduced back to Borough Council at a work session. That work session was on April 7th, and on the April 7th meeting, they re-looked at what was presented. That gave us a couple weeks to kind of review what was presented and come back with any questions to see if we actually had a desire to move forward with that project. So on April 21st of 2021, Borough Council was going to consider actually approving the idea of doing a further study. That council at the time tabled that authorization to move forward with the study and had some additional questions and just wanted to do some more public discussions about that so that we knew that we would get what we needed in that kind of feasibility study. So between April 2021 and August of 21, Brian Keaveney went back to have some conversations with PennDOT and address some of the questions that council had for them. And then he came back in front of us in August of 2021 with basically a new proposed scope. So the scope included the feedback of PennDOT, as well as some evaluation of some of the parallel streets that we were concerned about diversion of traffic. In August of 2021, at the August 18th meeting, council did authorize the traffic engineer to go ahead and move forward with a new feasibility study. So that feasibility study was conducted between September of 2021 and November of 2022. So it's about 2 years old, the feasibility study that's in front of us. The 2022 study specifically took into account the existing traffic and pending developments that were in the works. It also looked at the parallel streets to review the level of services on the streets and would those streets be able to accommodate that type of diversion. It also took into consideration our emergency service issues in that we have also installed preemptive traffic signal software to address current and future queuing needs of the borough. So from a emergency services perspective, we have the traffic study, the feasibility study addressed that, and it spoke to some of the efforts that we put in place from an emergency service perspective. The engineer provided some data-driven information that was related to safety and vehicular traffic from their best practice and what they've seen in the industry. So that included reduction in crash volume when you implement a road diet program. The center turn lane reduces rear end and left turn car crash. And then there are fewer conflict points along the roadway and intersections with the road diet program. From a pedestrian safety perspective, a road diet can shorten the crosswalk distance. So rather than a pedestrian having to walk across 4 lanes of moving traffic, they're reduced down to 2 lanes in what is proposed to us in the feasibility study. And then again, fewer conflict points because there's only 1 lane in each direction. So that kind of brings us forward to November of 2022 when Pannoni gave the recommendations to look at funding sources and continue conversations with PennDOT to move forward. So that's kind of where we are today. So today we are looking at authorizing the borough administration to go ahead and move forward in identifying funding sources to be able to fund a program if we so choose to move forward from that perspective.
Tina, had we established from where to where?
So in the feasibility study, in the second feasibility study, when he reviewed the existing state of the Fayette Street corridor, he did look at from the basically First Avenue going up the avenues, and he specifically stated to us that we could determine where we wanted it to actually go up to. He had a recommendation in that feasibility study of where he thought based on the traffic flow patterns and what he was seeing from turning and other issues backing into Fayette Street.
So I think if I remember, they wanted to start it at North Lane because Butler was already that 2-lane, and to bring it down to approximately 3rd.
Yeah, I think that piece of it is all up for discussion as we scope out what kind of funding we have for it, because I think that also is a determining factor, is how much money we have to be able to put towards these types of programs.
Stephanie, was PennDOT on board with this at that time?
Yeah, so that was the whole point of tabling it.
Right.
And then bringing it back. So Brian Keaveney was charged specifically with going and talking to the traffic unit and PennDOT. And PennDOT did provide feedback, and that feedback was included, any revisions that they wanted to see relative to the project in the revised scope prior to him doing the feasibility study. So yes, PennDOT is on board. Final plans, of course, design and whatnot will all have to get approved through the traffic unit at PennDOT. So again, if the funding sources are there, and you're actually the recipient of the funding sources, then you'd be committing to the borough's share of that that you would be putting into your resolution. And then the engineers at PennDOT and our engineer would be working out the final details of what that road diet would look like.
Any other questions related to the road diet, or are you hearing any other questions from your residents? I think kind of in my overview, I was able to answer some of the questions that I got via email over the last few weeks from some folks.
Have you heard anything?
Yes. Thank you for that very thorough explanation. Let me try and paraphrase this to make sure that like a 5-year-old could understand it, because this is what I want to make sure it comes out clear, is like, what is the goal of this project? It's a traffic calming and pedestrian safety. But in 5th grade terms for a 5-year-old, we're trying to make it safe for everyone to cross Fayette Street.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Adrian, and drive on.
And drive safely on Fayette Street. So whatever mode of vehicle they're in, whatever level of ability they have, age even for that matter, could have that's the goal. To give you some feedback on things I've at least seen throughout the discussion of this in my time on council is, in terms of feedback, is while people don't appreciate what it might do to current traffic and how long traffic waits may be, there is no other alternative really to making it a lot safer on Fayette Street with the current structure. And people will tell their stories of how their parents used to simply tell them, you can only cross Fayette Street at a light. That's just personally, and with knowing my constituents, that's not the kind of Conshohocken they want. They want to be able to move throughout without this fear of their safety. And I think Fayette Street right now is one of those areas that causes a lot of those tricky situations. I see them every day that I drive up and down Fayette.
It's a 4-lane highway.
So I just wanted to make it almost like painfully obvious. The goal is to make it safe for people to get across Fayette Street.
Either on foot or
And for
vehicles.
drivers, anybody else, commuters, to be safer on Fayette Street. Okay.
And it's not in lieu of some of the things that we're putting in place now, right? We have 2 mast arms that are in place now. We have a grant out there for another mast arm for 2nd Avenue. So we will continue doing all of those programs to make it safe for our pedestrians. But we all have stories of the flashing lights and people still driving through them. So we definitely want to continue to explore those options. Okay. Any other discussion or questions? All right. So first item, we're looking to consider approving a resolution 2024-24 authorizing the submission of a local share account grant application for the Fayette Street Road Diet Project. So I would be looking for a motion to approve the resolution 2024.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to consider approving Resolution 2024-25, authorizing the submission of a multimodal transportation fund grant application for the Fayette Street Road Diet Project. I'm looking for a motion to approve Resolution 2024-25, authorizing the multimodal transportation fund grant.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item is to consider Resolution 2024-26, authorizing the submission of a PICO Region Open Space Program grant application for the Weinman Park Improvement Project. Any questions on that grant? So this is just keeping in line with all of our grant applications and the good work that our administration does to get those funds. So hearing no questions, could I have a motion to approve Resolution 2024-26?
Make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
And President Sokolowski, just for the public, we are requesting the max amount in that PICO grant program, which is $10,000.
10,000? Thank you.
Is that a match grant? Is there any sort of match required?
A dollar for dollar match is required.
Thank you.
All right, next item is to consider approving Resolution 2024-27, approving the extension of a temporary no parking area on First Avenue at the intersection with Harry Street and outdoor dining for a temporary basis in that area of Daniel's Restaurant. Any questions?
This is another 90-day extension. Yeah.
An additional
Right,
90-day
okay.
extension, yes.
Are they having success
They're
with this?
having success, which is why they are requesting for a continuation. We did go back directly to the owner to inquire as to whether they wanted us to extend. They did request an extension, and they did ask for if it would be possible to look even further down the road in terms of any way to make this in a more permanent fashion. So we're still working through the legalities of what that may look like. They would have to come in front of you for consideration, but we are not there yet in terms of what's even feasible. So we need additional time to also explore that request from that business owner.
Okay.
Chief Lennon, have you had any visibility issues with drivers or anything that the police are concerned with?
We haven't had any issues related to it, and we have not had any comments, concerns, or problems related to it.
Thank you. Anyone have any other questions?
Are they doing like heat lamps out there, I guess? Because it's gonna get fairly chilly, yeah.
Their
I
plan
would,
is to just keep going. I believe that it's still rather popular from what I've been told.
okay.
All right. What I'm looking for is a motion to approve Resolution 2024-27, approving the extension of the temporary no parking area on First Avenue at the intersection with Harry Street for outdoor dining.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, that is all of our routine business. At this point, I would ask for any public comment. Hearing no public comment. Mr. Mayor, do you have anything you would like to share with us this evening that is fun and exciting?
So busy in town. Last week, Conshohocken and Ambucks had their one of their big events for the year, the Super 3000. This happens every October, and the funds that they raise help to support the Special Olympics and their overall mission of helping children with special needs. So always a great event, always great to catch up with folks at that every year. We also had the EAC cleanup, which was awesome. It was, I think the Borough, I've never seen it done at Borough Hall before. I thought that was a great location, and Thomas got to hang out with all of our public works employees and look at the trucks. So it ended up being a really fun day and a beautiful day. So thank you to the EAC for putting that on twice a year. We also have our Halloween parade on Saturday. So a reminder that there's a bunch of different age brackets. There's a family bracket, and then there's also one for dogs. So we hope to see everyone at the park.
And the weather looks like it's
Weather
gonna be
looks
beautiful.
amazing, yeah. And I think, one more, okay, yep, pumpkin painting at the community center. It's the first year I actually could participate, so it was really great. Lauren and the team just do an awesome job. We walked away with a pumpkin and all kinds of paint all over the car, but Thomas was happy. So thank you to her and her team for putting that on every year, and we look forward to the next one. That's it.
I'm good, thank you.
Stacy?
I'm good, thank you.
Kathleen? Nothing. Anita?
Yeah, I'd like to let everyone know that the roof on Marywood Park House has been replaced, and we are moving forward with doing some other touch-ups as far as paint and replacing wood, and the house will eventually look gorgeous.
Great. Adrian?
Yes, the mayor mentioned the EAC cleanup. we collected 250 pounds of trash. So we were very happy to do that, getting it off of the streets and also out of like the drains that go to the river. And yeah, I did want to also highlight again, there is that pet costume contest, because I've seen online people asking if there's one around the Conshohocken area. And yes, this Saturday, dress your pet up, bring it out. You might get a prize. That's it.
Might be able to persuade the judges. Alan? All right, and I have nothing this evening. So with no other comments or communications to get out to our public, I will call a meeting adjourned.